How's everybody doing? One of the few advantages of being a non-attorney in a room like this is I do not fall under your regulatory compliance related to neckwear. So I did not wear a tie today. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you. We're going to depart from a lot of the First Amendment stuff. I'm going to cover it in probably my last one or two quick slides. We're going to have a little fun. How many gamers do we have in this room? I cannot. Are you serious? Really? I'm shocked. I did not think there would be that many. That's good. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to take a little time to explain to you the challenge of taking these policies that we all spend so much time thinking about and developing, especially from a business perspective, and then operationalizing those policies at scale, not only to the First Amendment world in the United States, but also globally. Pretty big challenge. It never stops. It keeps getting more difficult. It keeps getting more complex. And I'm going to throw some of those challenges out to you today. Okay. What is Xbox? I mean, what is this thing called Xbox Live? You may have heard of it. There's a lot of gamers in here. Xbox Live is an online gaming community. We're about 48 to 50 million people at any given time are members of our community. That continues to grow as we go to new regions. We're in a whole bunch of regions throughout the world. It's multiplayer gaming at a global scale. So in the days 20, 30 years ago, you might go and get a little gaming console or even some of the handheld stuff, and you'd play a game and tell your buddy, hey, you know, I got a 427. He would say, well, I beat you. I got a 428. Some very smart people along the way, after the Xbox console, the first one was actually designed, said, hey, we should allow, there's this thing called TCP/IP. We could network this and let people play together, and that was Xbox Live launch right around the 2003 timeframe. It was an experiment. We don't know if it would take off or not, and obviously a lot of years since that time, the thing has continued to grow, and it continues to get much more robust in terms of functionality. It's semi-anonymous, and I think that probably a lot of smart people in this room, you probably get a sense of what that means. When you're semi-anonymous or even really anonymous on the internet, you will do things that you would not ordinarily do face-to-face. That's just a fact, right? The reason I put gamer tags in there is really the only way you're known to other users, unless you want to go further, is just your gamer tag. And your gamer tag is a 15-digit little icon that basically tells the world who you are. You can make that gamer tag yourself. You can call yourself anything you want. And as you would imagine, that leads to some issues, right? So at its simplest, most simple, sort of perspective, a gamer tag, a little ability to add text, is really our most simplest, most basic challenge that we have on our service, right? It's what everybody sees you as. I'm going to talk a lot more about much more complex functionality, and you'll see that the issues become more complex. Highly interactive and competitive, way beyond anything I originally ever thought. I've only been at this role for 3 years, but when I came here, I went to a big conference, a gaming conference, and one of my people were giving a really good talk about harassment and online bullying and those kind of things. And as it is in any of those kind of conferences, you get a line of people, hey, does anybody have any questions? And I think the first or second gentleman that stood up there must have been mid-50s, maybe even older than that. And he got up there and basically started saying, you know, how much he valued a team like mine and stopping the hatred and sort of looking out for the little guy and all things that I care a lot about. But it struck me, the man was in a room, probably 300 people, and he literally started weeping. I'd never seen anything like that. And it really opened my eyes. I mean, this gaming world is that important to people. There are scores, millions of people where it is the central focus of their life. And until you really start understanding that community, it really is kind of a big eye-opener. It means a lot to the people. So it's online, and yet it's extremely personal. So you're anonymous, yet that you have an ability to interact with people in an extremely personal way. We make a joke at times. You take a bunch of 15-year-olds, you throw a game at them and let them race cars or let them engage in some other activity, add a little competition, and then you sit back and see what happens, right? It could be good, it could be bad, and everything else. My team is there to try to, in a sense, make sure that experience is safe for everybody. So it's also high customer investment, time and money. In a sense, Xbox Live, like many other social media style platforms, and I don't have to sit here and name them all, you know the kind I'm talking about. The difference that I think it would be to those type of activities would be there's a very high customer investment. Somebody has to pay X amount of money for this box that they're going to put and hook up to their TV. They have to pay money to belong to our network. Every title costs money, and then all the cool stuff you can buy once you're in the title all costs money. It's a very high investment. Plus, now you've got a user that has joined this world, invested the money, and now they're investing huge amounts of time and effort in order to get those achievements on those games and get their way up these leaderboards and make a reputation for themselves. That time investment is actually even more important to them than the financial investment. And that's where I think we depart from this, you know, the Facebook. I mean, I would ask, I'm sure everybody in here has a Facebook page, or almost everybody, but how much investment, like in time and real effort, do you have in it? Or your LinkedIn profile, or your Twitter account? Like, the radical difference, I think, between those mediums, which are great, and ours, is the huge investment that our customers have in it. How do our users interact? Well, we've got multiplayer gaming, like I kind of talked about, and that's the ability to talk back and forth with voice during a game. You get to send messages to people, and you can attach voice messages, little snippets. You could also attach photos. And some of the more dynamic ways of people being able to interact are upload videos. So in your living room, you have a Connect video, high definition, super high definition video capability, and you can create videos and you can lay that on top of gameplay. Super fun, super great. As you would imagine, any of that kind of stuff also has some risks, right? And so my team deals with a lot of those risks. The newest thing is no more getting a video and staging a video and having somebody look at that. Now, let's just broadcast live and stream it live. So there's not even a delay in there. Now it's actually happening in real time from somebody's living room. So, and all of that has taken place really within about the last 2 years. I mean, prior to the launch of Xbox One and Sony's competitive product, it was a much more static environment. Now, the stuff I'm talking about right now, the things they have planned are just amazing. All of which comes and drives policy and even some legal challenges. So invitations, leaderboards, there's entire communities are sprung up around competitive gaming. There's money to be made in a lot of those environments. And it truly is an international thing. So you can be playing with somebody from another country. I mean, and that's the draw of it. That's why people love it. Who are we? What is my team and what do we do? So first and foremost, it'll always be number one, we protect our customers. And that means we protect people from typically anything bad that can confront you on our service. That could be something as simple as, you know, this gamer wasn't nice to me, or I saw a gamer tag that I think is offensive, text-based stuff, all the way to things that are more significant, a fraud element. It could be even potentially criminal activity, those kind of things. We also protect the integrity of the live service. We care deeply about the experience of a customer, deeply. We're gamers ourselves, our whole team are gamers, we're pretty hardcore. So we care a lot about that experience. It's not good for the community, it's not good for business, it's not good for anybody if people join our community and have a bad experience. We support our titles and our partners with a deep array of behavioral intelligence. To say that we are data-centric and data-focused, that's putting it very mildly. We have some class-leading people that are looking at data and making some very, very good decisions with that data on a daily basis. We proactively identify some risk to the gaming community. We're very embedded in the community. We see all the different ways that people let their displeasure be known or let their pleasure be known. What's happening and what some of those risks and emerging trends and issues might be. And we're also the first line of defense for any kind of criminal activity as well, so fraud, harassment, threats, and potential criminal acts. Here's how we kind of put our, more or less our buckets, and I will say for the purposes of this talk, definitely user behavior and UGC. Everybody familiar with UGC? If you're an attorney and you're going to be in this world, I would highly recommend that you take a look at that term. That term has come from sort of just in the last maybe 2 to 3 years, something as a term that would kind of be thrown around from time to time, to the specific term to know. An entire community is built around how we manage UGC. So UGC, user-generated content. Anything a user can do to produce content and add to your community or your ecosystem, or in our case, a network, that other users have the ability to be confronted with, either if it's voluntary or involuntary. So that could be anything as simple as, here's my gamer tag, to, wait a minute, now I have no ability not to see that gamer tag, or here's my profile, which if I want to see your profile, I have to click on your gamer tag and take a couple extra steps, to, I want to see all these cool videos you're making. It takes 5, 6, 8 voluntary steps for me to get to that. How that UGC is handled, both technically and through policy, is becoming more and more important in the industry. So we have good reputations not only with our competitors, but also with the social media networks of the world. This concept of UGC and how it is handled from its initiation all the way through potentially to, to its end user is really, really becoming a big thing for us. So when we think about that bucket, we think about the harassment and the threats and the bullying and those type of things. And in our world, those are things that, female gamers or particular gamers might be targeted for whatever the reason. They get into a game and they feel like people are targeting them for whatever the reason. We do take a lot of a role in the actual design of the product. So we think about a user that confronts something that they don't like. Is it easy for them to report that to Xbox Live? And if they report that, is there a team that is equipped that can handle those type of reports? How that user works their way through that entire process, there's actually quite a bit of science and quite a bit of research that goes into that. We want that experience, even if they're confronted with something that may not be great, we want that experience to be good. We care deeply, and we want the customer to know that we care deeply. The challenge that we have is to do that at scale. Platform integrity, cheat detection, fraud mitigation. I won't go into a lot of these, but I will say, like, again, when I first came here, I said, well, cheating, I mean, come on, what's the big deal? I mean, it's video games, so a kid's cheating in a video game. Again, I had no idea. To give you the high level on this, titles, the people that build these games, right, the Call of Duties and all the Halos and all these games are super popular, right? They invest not a small amount of money in building these games. If they go and sell a game to a user and they come and play it on Xbox Live, or they go and play it on our competitor's platform, the first thing hey, I can't wait to play this game. It's December 26th. Here we go. I'm going to start playing this cool game. And the first thing they're met with is nothing but cheaters. And no matter how they try to play this game, they're met with a really bad experience. That is not good for our titles, obviously. So until I get a better sense of some of the economies and some of the issues that go along with that, it's actually a pretty significant issue. And so we take it very seriously. This is very transparent to the public. This is not anything that's hidden. I mean, we care a lot about this. And so my team will identify that type of activity and will take enforcement action on those particular users. The big thing the reason I kind of spent a little bit of time in the previous slide talking about the investment that people have in our services is we're going to go out and take enforcement action. Like, for example, we're going to not let you talk in a game for a while. We're going to maybe potentially, if you're bad enough, ban your account, right? Do those kind of things. These are paying customers. We take that very, very seriously. And whether we do 1 enforcement or 1,000 enforcements, we have to defend every single one of those, both to the user who may contact us and say this isn't right, to the parent who might say this isn't right, or potentially in a PR setting or even legal setting, depending on the region, that what you've done to me isn't right. So how we work our way through that operationally is really pretty good story. Okay, here really, in the nutshell, this is really what the challenge is for us. Okay, so we already talked a little bit about anonymity, right? What we're talking about is human behavior here, and it is very, very difficult to quantify human behavior, but essentially, let's put it this way. When you're anonymous and you've paid to belong to a service like this, there's a sense of entitlement. I should be able to say X. There's a First Amendment. I mean, we probably get that 100 times a day. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but hey, I should be able to say anything I want. It's a free country. It's this, it's that. The reality is there's a terms of use. There's something that you agreed to when you joined our private network. And this code of conduct is what my team owns and what my team runs. and we can make a decision about what is positive and what isn't positive. That line is our decision to make. Real PII is not required for account creation, so some of these folks truly are anonymous. There is, to a degree, a lack of accountability. Anytime you're behind that anonymity and you don't believe that you're face-to-face with the people that you're actually impacting in a negative way, whether it's a bullying or a harassment scenario, there is a sort of disconnect there. And then finally, the level that the parents are involved plays a huge role in this as well. It's a dynamic surface area. The service is constantly changing. It's changing. The velocity is so fast it's almost difficult for us to keep up. From a legal perspective, probably at the end of this, the challenge I would have for the legal community would be technology moves so fast that I believe there have been times when the legal community, including the government, can't quite keep up with it. I don't know, I don't pretend to have the answer for that, but I know that sort of being at the ground level and actually having to do this, that legal guidance, either from a regulatory perspective or even from a legal perspective internally, it's important to have those type of legal resources available. It's a pretty big issue. Content has value, so there's always fraud opportunity. Anytime you're going to trade anything of value, whether it's some sort of a currency, virtual currency or whatever, there is a fraud element there. It is, to a degree, a sort of a constant cat and mouse game with people that are involved in doing bad things on any service, and it's the same whether it's a true social network or it's a network like ours. So for us, we have to always try to engineer all of our solutions with the idea that people might come in and try to manipulate those. And the most simple example would be, I can go in and complain about a user, and this user just beat me in this game, and I'm really mad. So now I'm going to file a bunch of complaints on this guy because I want to get him booted off the service. And not only that, maybe I'm going to get 10 of my buddies or 20 of my buddies to all start filing complaints against this guy, and potentially maybe even get a script going and try to file a bunch of complaints against this guy, that kind of stuff. So for us, all of our services and all of our systems are designed with that potential in mind. And from a technical perspective, it's a pretty big challenge. We put a lot of time and effort into having accuracy, really above all. And then finally, soft science versus technology. Every decision we make, every policy decision, we are going to allow this, but we're not going to allow that, right? Every single decision we make has an order of magnitude. It's easy to make that decision like on one case, I guess in the legal community I would say, hey, the case law has shown us this, 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 and this. For us, that case law moves so fast that it's almost on a daily basis. Like an example would be any event in the world, right? It could be good, it could be bad, creates a UGC issue for us. Now sometimes it's bigger than others, but if there's something tragic, for example, that happens, sooner or later people are going to figure out a way to try to create UGC and shock people or have some sort of impact to other people and try to get that onto either our service or some other service. So we have to think about exactly how we're going to handle that. We actually spend a fair amount of time looking at the world and understanding what important things are in other parts of the world. What could be offensive, this is a classic example, what could be offensive in the United States could be meaningless in Germany or vice versa. It could be the exact opposite. And so when we think about how we craft our policies and craft our code of conduct, we always have to look at it from a global basis. If we are going to put down some rule in the United States, it has to be enforceable around the world. Pretty big policy challenge. And then finally, when you look at the loop here, right? Hey, my name's Johnny. I'm a great gamer. I want to introduce myself. Obviously, our bad gamer didn't have very nice things to say. That complaint comes through, eventually gets to my team. We have to look at that and think about the entire loop here. The person that's been impacted and potentially the person that did the bad stuff. Our goal is not to ban users. These are paying customers. Our goal is to change behavior. We want everybody to have fun on our service. Where that fun is sort of up to us to design. So how we message both of those users is actually pretty important, regardless of what enforcement action we take or didn't take. So for us, operationalizing that is a huge challenge. Evidence versus automation-based models. So evidence-based system would be something along the lines of that very simple gamer tag. You know, somebody sees a gamer tag that they thought was offensive, they file a complaint on that gamer tag. A human being using the services that we actually build could actually look at that and make a decision. Yes, no, I'm not really sure, let somebody else look at it, that kind of thing. However, automation allows us to look at things at scale, right? And so automation is great. We spend a lot of time, we build all our own algorithms, we spend a lot of time on how we do this, but there's always risks. And so I said earlier, we have to defend and own every single decision. I could never say to a user, a paying customer, well, you know, the algorithm said that, you know, you did X, Y, Z. It just doesn't work that way. I could never do that. And so if we are going to have an automated approach, typically what we'll do is we'll use an automated approach followed up with some backstop of human or even machine learning elements. And so if you're into this kind of stuff, especially the behavioral piece and understanding it, it's really a very fascinating place to be, where the policy and the math and the technology collide. It's actually pretty cool. So to summarize here, let's just think about our First Amendment considerations, right? We've got a terms of use, and I would defy anybody here that has joined any network or pretty much used anything on the internet within the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 years and not had to sign some kind of terms of use. And basically that terms of use, by design, references our code of conduct as being what you can do and what you can't do on our service. I took a quick snippet of there on the right. How that code of conduct is crafted, what we do allow, how we don't allow, and the areas that we leave sort of open to interpretation, because that's always smart to do that, is a constantly evolving process. As things in the world change, as technology changes, we have to be able to stay ahead of that. We are at an advantage because, you know, we're working on the new products, and we could say, geez, hey, we're going to allow users to do this and this. Have we thought about if something could go wrong there? And so my team does a lot of that in the SDL, the software development lifecycle. We believe deeply in the rights of free expression. All of us do, until it violates our code of conduct. And really, where I'd say that line is if what you're doing is negatively impacting another user to the degree that it's destroying their good time on our service, then you've impacted, then you come to our attention. The policy enforcement team decides more or less what Xbox line is by managing that code of conduct. There's no surprises, there's no secrets. That code of conduct is out there for the world to see. It's there by reference when somebody signs their terms of use. It doesn't mean we never get into First Amendment conversations, but typically that is our answer. So the rubber on this is everybody has an opinion on one particular case. As the features become more complex, we continually, like I said, continually devise new policies. Outlining a basic policy is really pretty simple. So a basic policy would be, hey, we allow self-identification, right? On the service, you can self-identify as anything you really want. You know, if you want to say that you're gay, if you want to proclaim that you're proud about your race or your background or your particular prowess as a gamer or almost anything, we allow that. What we won't allow is when you use that type of a platform, even if it's only 15 characters, to denigrate, to target, to harass other users. And it doesn't take that much imagination to figure out how people can do that. And so it really becomes a lot of judgment calls. It actually does. And so one of the problems with this is at scale, how do I train people sitting in an office or in a room to be able to look at these and in a matter of seconds make those judgment calls? We could probably spend hours talking about any one of these, but I don't have hours. I mean, this stuff is coming. In the time I've presented this, out of the 100, I mean, I don't even know how many of these have come across. So operationalizing that, we do a lot of interesting work with that. High volumes of incoming reports. How do we train relatively junior people to make highly accurate, complex decisions? The number one thing we do is scenario-based training. We take actual scenarios, actual UGC, and we put it in front of our people, and we incorporate that into our training. We test, we verify. We have an escalation policy where if they're not sure, we make it very clear what their processes are for that. How do we use technology to address the scale and accuracy? So there are such things as text filtering, automation, and customer advocacy is always a big thing for us. So we always try to loop back with the customer so they understand what our policies are and what they may or may not be. Again, our goal is to change behavior and protect the user experience. For us, whether it's automation, whether it's a decision to enforce or a decision not to enforce, there's risk either way. So for us, being transparent, we're a public-facing team. People can come to our website and really demand of us, what you did doesn't make sense, this is wrong, you shouldn't have banned this gamer tag or whatever it may be. And we have to defend all of that at scale in a public forum. It's a big challenge, but it's actually a lot of fun too. You get to learn a lot about the community. The public typically has a lot of time to ponder a single case. Again, for us, we have to ponder a lot of cases at any given time, and we never know where the new issue might be. Any tragic event or anything that occurs can spur up this UGC issue, and so we have to stay on top of that. And then finally, I would say operational discipline, very strong processes. Technology where it makes sense, but not over-reliance on technology is kind of where we come down on a lot of these things. And then, again, probably the ask that I would have of the legal community would be agility. And being able to respond to the velocity with which some of these things are changing. Like, I know in our world, it's unrecognizable from what it was just 2.5, maybe 3 years ago. It's totally unrecognizable. The features, the ability to do different things, the ability to reach out to so many people, not only instantly, but in real time. So all of that creates a lot of legal questions. And so probably the other thing I'd probably throw out there would be, we tend to be US focused, and I know that that is one of the reasons we're here, obviously, to talk about the First Amendment. But there are legal implications around the world for every decision you make right here. And having that broader context, that broader view, for people like me, is actually quite helpful. Sometimes it's hard when you're talking about 30 different countries. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in EMEA or Asia or whatever, but like, having that broader view from a legal perspective, I think that'd be very, very helpful. So that's it. Thank you.